Hello, Mark Jai, and this is Straight Talk. With me today is Fred Lee. Fred, you were a former member of the Legislative Council and a member of the Democratic Party. You are now a political consultant.
Right.
But you're still with the Democratic Party, right?
Yes, yes.
So you do lobbying.
Lobbying,
All right,
electrical members,
as a political
government officials.
Now, there's been a big change in Hong Kong's political election system. Beijing has changed the rules quite dramatically. But are you now still a part of the opposition, the so-called opposition?
I think the two camps, right? Pro-establishment and the other side, opposition. That's for sure.
So you belong to the opposition?
Yeah. That's for sure.
Okay, now, is there any room for the opposition? Because there's a lot of
Under
talk.
the new system?
Yes, because there's a lot of talk that there isn't. All legislative councillors must now be nominated by a selection committee. Directly elected seats will be reduced to around 20. Is there still room for the opposition?
I think from these questions, I will put it to different aspects. One, if you want to perform a locally elected, geographically elected legislators, you're serving your constituents, you're serving the people, particularly in your constituency. That's for sure. It's still, you can perform that 100%, no problem, right? Reflecting the housing issues in your constituency, fighting for bus line, something like that, bus stop more, rest area, no change. But if you want to influence the government, particularly in the political issues, okay, reform, or you want to criticize more, you put your motion really forcefully, against the government, then you have to forget about it.
You say there is still room to influence on things like housing and so on. What I meant was, is there a role for the opposition to do that? Because with only 20 directly elected seats, it's not possible for the opposition to get all the 20 seats, right?
Michael, I was elected since 1991, long time ago. It's under the British rule. And I elected all the way until 2008. So all kind of elections, I have been my personal first-hand experience. And we are always in the minority, okay?
But you're going to be less of the minority now. At least then you had 35, right?
So it's a degree, not really the total change, right? We are always in minority. It just depends, a bigger minority or smaller minority.
On top of that, the selection committee, the new selection committee of 1,500 people, will nominate candidates for the chief executive, and for the first time, nominate candidates for the legislative council. That never happened before.
Right.
So, that committee, which is heavily pro-Beijing, will rule out all the opposition members, or most of the opposition members, unless you can prove that you're a patriot. There's no definition of what a patriot is.
Unless you belong to the loyal opposition.
Right.
Loyal opposition.
Tell me what is now, there's been a lot of talk about the loyal opposition. What exactly does that mean?
My understanding.
Yes.
Okay, I have no inside story, but my understanding is do not touch the borderline of the Chinese government, the central government. One, independence of Hong Kong. Never mention it. You draw a line, stay away from that. Second is collude with the Western countries, bad-mouthing Hong Kong in other parliaments, especially in the U.S. or the Western countries.
Well, I don't think that you ever did that because you left LegCo anyway a long time ago. Are you a patriot?
Of course, because even Democratic Party, okay, our party platform, for sure, we support one country, two system, and before the handover, I myself belong to the camp, although at that time it's not the majority. I say, yes, we love to go back to our motherland, China, and the British should go. No role to play here. At that time, we stick to that until now.
So are you a part of the loyal opposition or just the opposition?
I'm just the opposition.
Because recently, in the past, before these political changes, Legislative Council, you had some opposition members throwing things at government officials.
Radical actions.
Radical
like that.
action, filibustering. Is that part of being the loyal opposition?
I think in the eyes of China, the central government, those are going too far, a bit too far. But still, if you say you are not supporting independence of Hong Kong, okay, and you are not going to other countries to badmouth China, and you are not touching at all self-referendum, self-determination, things like that, you are still okay.
What about when in 2014, the central government gave Hong Kong a political reform package, which would be, CE will be directly elected after being nominated by a selection committee, right? That was voted down by the opposition, right? The Democratic Party, the Civic Party,
Yes.
Your party,
Yes.
they voted it down, so it never came to pass. By voting that down, would that be an unloyal opposition?
In that angle, particularly that incident, I would say yes.
It was an unloyal opposition.
Because you are not compromising, okay? I think the central government expect the loyal opposition should always ready to compromise.
But is it compromise or accept everything that they say?
Not everything. You see, the Chinese, even under the new system, my guess is the central government will lobby some Democrats to run and give them seats and give them nomination by the election committee.
Would you have voted down that package if you were in LegCo? The political reform package? Would you have joined the opposition?
I have trouble to answer your questions because at that time, I'm not in the LegCo, but I'm in a think tank, a convener of a think tank, doing a lot of survey on people's opinion on the package, okay? At that time, is 56, the first survey, 56% agree. We should, take this as a starting point. Of course, they are not satisfied, but at least take a starting point. So at that time, I feel quite kind of in the middle. But
so now, if I would ask you, would you have voted it down? You're not sure. Because your party members voted it down.
Yes. I understand. I fully understand. And I myself may also vote down not because of the poll, but because of a lot of political circumstances. It compels you. You have no choice. You really have to vote it down because the screening by the election committee is too powerful.
Well, your former Democratic Party chairperson, Emily Lau, was here a few weeks ago, and I asked her the same question. She said, if we had agreed to it, it would not be true democracy. And if we didn't agree to it, then we will never get democracy. So you're caught between nowhere.
As I said, if I'm still the LegCo member, I will go along with the party decision. I understand why we have to vote it down. But if I'm not, I'm the convener of a think tank, okay, out of the party role, then I would say we should have a second thought, not except to say yes. I think we should have the second thought, such as central government should give more promises. Okay, fine, this is the first election. How about the second one? You have to take away those harsh screening criteria. Otherwise, I won't support.
Okay, well, let me ask you this before the break. Now the central government has said that the selection committee will be increased from 1,200 to 1,500. They will vet the chief executive candidates. They will vet the legislative council candidates. They probably will do away with the district council seats in the selection committee, over 100 of them, held by the opposition members because they won big in 2019. They will remove them. So, and then you have to be a patriot to govern or rule Hong Kong. Those are the ground rules. Those are the bottom lines, okay? Will you accept that new reality?
I will put it this way. Patriot is just one way looking things. the other way is, don't touch the two borderline, as I suggest.
Okay.
Then
now,
you belong to the patriot.
I'm asking whether you accept the new changes. The changes is that the directly elected seats will only be 220.
Changes because I myself involved in so many elections, go through all the processes. This is a way backward.
It's a backward move, right?
Definitely.
So you don't really support it?
I definitely not support. Not, that's for sure. Very clear.
It's democracy taking a step back.
Way back to 1995.
That's correct, yes. But if you don't support it, then you cannot say you're a part of the loyal opposition or a patriot.
But I'm not an electrical member. I'm not planning to run.
Will you run again? I'm curious.
No planning at all.
You won't even consider it?
No.
If they approach you, would you say, come back and because you're seen as a moderate, will you consider
I'm always a moderate.
So will you consider it?
You really ask me as hypothetical questions.
Yes.
As hypothetically, I would say no.
All right, okay. Quick break, still soon, don't go away. Thanks for staying with us. With me is Fred Lee. Fred Lee, you, as I said, member of the Democratic Party, former legislative councillor. You said you don't accept the new changes, electoral changes, because you think it's a backward step for democracy.
Yes.
Let me remind you of what the Chief Secretary, Matthew Cheung, said in his blog on Sunday. He said, by increasing the Legislative Council seats from 70 to 90 is a big step forward towards democracy because you have increased LegCo by 20 seats.
Do you laugh at that when you say that?
No, because...
I share with your laugh. Yeah. It's just ironic and sarcastic. Increasing number doesn't mean you're going for more democracy. It really depends.
No, I laugh because you say it's a step backwards and he said it's a step forward.
Oh,
so who is right?
Of course I say I'm right. I have a lot of proof, right? I myself is a perfect example. 85, I was elected as district board members. 85, long time ago, right? And at that time, district board members can elect among themselves as one legislators in my Guntong district board. I joined the election as well. Of course, I defeated because pro-establishment, right? So election committee is not new thing. That at that time is called electoral college, by the British rule. And then at 95 changed to election committee, but all directly elected district board members, electing 10, legislators. And some well-known scholars like Anthony Cheung was elected through this,
Anthony Cheung then joined the government as a minister.
Yeah.
Now, Fred, I just want to ask you this. You said it's a step backwards, but Matthew Cheung says it's a step forward in democracy. But there is a certain kind of logic in what Matthew Cheung, the Chief Secretary, said, because they're increasing the seats from 70 to 90. So you're adding 20 more seats in the Legislative Council.
But not in geographical election, right? Those adding is not in a geographical. Why?
You mean the added seats are not directly elected by the people,
Exactly.
Right?
You see, after the return Hong Kong back to China, the first election, LegCo, 98, I joined that election as well. It's a new method. It's a proportional representative list system. In 95, it's single seat, single vote, okay? And you see the left wing, the pro-establishment candidate, like Jasper Zhang, Chen Gailam, Tam Yuzhong, all the big guns, defeated under the single seat, single vote.
But now they hold top position.
So they changed to proportional, okay, in 98, in order to protect the minority of the pro-establishment. The party got for sure elected, all right? That's the history. And then at that time, they have an election committee, elect among themselves or someone from outside. They get 10 seats at the start, 98, and then the 6, the next term, 2000, and then 2004, nothing. no more from election committee. And where did they go? The seats all go to geographical directly election. So from that angle, you see, this is a transition period from non-democratic way of election committee, and then transforming to all directly elected.
And now it's backwards.
Exactly. So, Matthew
But then,
Cheung.
on the other, the other argument is, even though the directly elected seats will be cut from 35 to 20, you still have 70 seats which are, in a way, indirectly elected, right? Not
Yes.
appointed, they're indirectly elected.
Right.
So in that way, Matthew Cheung can be right, arguably, by saying that even though the seats are not directly elected, there are more seats that are indirectly elected. So it's a form of democracy.
What he said is only in terms of number. It's quantity. I'm talking about quality. Democracy is transparency. People have entitled to vote. It's a fair game, okay? So from election committee, transform gradually to all directly elected seats in the history. You can't really lie with the history.
The chief executive, Carrie Lam, said that this was necessary, the changes, because there were petrol bombs in the streets, there was filibustering in LegCo, and so on. So Beijing had no choice. Had to do this to protect national security. That's what she said. But she said that eventually she could see a day when democracy could go forward. Can you see that day?
From this new system, it's going backward, and I don't...
And when things settle down, they can go forward again?
But you see, according to the basic law, okay, we talk about basic law.
Okay.
It's about gradually going to universal suffrage. Mm-hmm. And this going backward is not gradually going to universal suffrage.
But they did offer, like I said, the 2014 package, which was gradually going forward, but it was rejected in LegCo.
Because the dispute in the screening process by the election committee. So each have a deadlock here. But for the legislators, it's nothing about the screening process. At that time, the package, the MPC package. But what happened to the Legislative Council? No movement at all, no improvement at all. Mm-hmm. In the past, it's always say more directly elected every term, and then goes to universal suffrage.
No, it got stuck at 35-35, right?
We got stuck at 35-35, and now not even stuck. It's going backward.
Well, yeah, the 5 super seats that Donald Zhang, the former chief executive, negotiated, that's also going to be scrapped.
I put vote on that.
Yeah,
at that time.
And
I myself.
And that's going to be scrapped as well now. That's gone.
All the political function of district councillors.
Yeah.
Gone.
Well, 1.6 million people voted for the district council candidates. Most of them were opposition. They won in a landslide.
Yeah.
1.6 million people voted for them in 2019 at the height of the protests. To many, that was the genuine public opinion of Hong Kong people, right? But now those seats are not going to be able to represent the election committee in selecting the chief executive.
And legislators as well.
And the legislators as well. So the voices of those 1.6 million are dead. But then now, changing topics, the latest news was that around 27,000 people applied for the BNO passport. In just about a month and a half, 27,000 people applied for the BNO passport. That's quite a large number for 1.5 months.
Short period of time.
Do you expect this to go higher?
Of course. From the statistics, more people now applying, not just to UK. BNO is to UK. And Canada, they relax on the rule, right? Those 5-year students studying in Canada, they can apply. And Australia as well.
Will you go?
I don't belong to that category. I was studying in Canada 30 years ago.
I know, but you have a BNO. You had a BNO. You qualified for a BNO.
Yeah, I didn't renew for more than
It doesn't matter.
years.
You can still go, but will you go?
I will not go.
You stay in Hong Kong.
Stay. I'm a Hong Konger.
And you stay here, and but have you heard of friends who are going? People.
Sure. Sure.
A lot
My
of them
middle
say-
class friends.
Huh?
Middle class friends. Especially they have young kids.
They want to go.
Yeah.
So that's a vote of no confidence for Hong Kong.
Sure. Very
Now-
objective.
Now, some people say that with this new selection committee of 1,500 people, and they can decide who can or cannot be a candidate for chief executive or legislative council. So then that makes, and their decision is not subject to judicial review. That makes them more powerful than the chief executive. It is already, a lot of people already believe that the chief executive no longer really rules Hong Kong. Do you agree with that?
Every chief executive in the past, they have to really rely on those 1,200. Or in the beginning is 800, Dong Ginwa. Those 800, they are the kingmakers, especially the majority one. Democrats has always elected in the election committee minority.
Right.
Okay? But still have enough vote to nominate one opposition candidate. But now, if the election committee say you have to get a nomination from all 5 sectors, even though maybe only 5 or 10, still, I don't think you can get enough votes from the 5th.
So the opposition will not have any candidates, you think?
Unless the central government let you go.
But then I'll go back to the question, is the chief executive now the real Hong Kong leader, or has she lost that power?
I think she have to consult most of the issue with the Chinese liaison office here. I think that's the
So the liaison office is running Hong Kong, not the chief executive.
if not running so seriously, but at least they have a heavy influence on CE and some issues is really make decision.
Okay, I've got 1 minute. Going forward, how do you see Hong Kong going forward with all these changes? Going forward, how do you see Hong Kong?
Quite pessimistic about going more democracy. Now we're going backward, and I don't know how we have a turning point to go forward again.
You cannot see a turning point.
At this moment, I don't have a crystal ball at all.
But why are you then so pessimistic?
This backward is totally control the outcome of the result of the elections, and make sure those independence guy, so-called, they touching the borderlines of a Chinese government, they were all gone. So this system is definitely a guarantee for those the Chinese government doesn't like to join any election.
Time's up. See you next time. Good evening.